Greetings. Welcome to another episode of the 3-Minute Therapy Podcast. I'm Dr. Michael Edelstein, a clinical psychologist with a remote practice. And I am co-author with my partner here, Dr. David Ramsey Steele, of 3-Minute Therapy. And we also wrote a book called Therapy Breakthrough. And we are fortunate to be joined today with our technical person whose help without this would not be possible. So that's Chris Rossini. Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Yeah, I'm happy to be on this side of the mic.
Oh, great. We're happy to have you. Okay, today the subject is very general, how to enjoy life. And I'll start with some REBT, rational emotive behavior therapy. And the first thing to look at in order to enjoy life is whether you have demands on enjoying life. In other words, I must always be happy and always be enjoying life. Otherwise, I'm no good or my life is miserable. Or I must do perfectly in my life, otherwise life cannot be enjoyed. Or I must always be happy, and if I'm not, then I'm going to be miserable. So look for your musts, look for your shoulds, and question, challenge, and contradict them. So that would be the grounded principles, as far as I see them, to start having an enjoyable life. Okay, David, Chris, anyone want to add to that?
Yeah, well, I think that a great deal of REBT is concerned not with positively promoting enjoyment in life, but with removing obstacles to enjoyment in life, and especially obstacles that felt to be a problem by the client, by the person who's getting therapy. People have these problems that seem to them very difficult and intractable. And REBT offers solutions to these problems, in as much as these problems are generated by the cast of thinking that the client has.
Yes, I think that's a very good point. So there's a difference between strict REBT, which Albert Ellis called preferential REBT, and not so strict non-preferential. And the preferential REBT is what David just described, removing blocks to enjoying life, but also the REBT therapist often gives positive suggestions for how to enjoy life. So one basic principle is try different things in your life, experiment with things, and stick with what you enjoy. And after giving it a good try, dispense with what you don't enjoy to the extent possible.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Michael.
Go on, Chris.
Okay. Yeah, when it comes to the subject of happiness, I think the tendency is to look at it in broader terms than we should. Seeking a goal of being happy is too broad. Whereas if you brought it down to the present moment, the present day, that's something that you can focus on. And REBT is what you can use to help you achieve it today, right now, rather than trying to picture your whole life and I'm going to be happy someday. REBT, I find it to be very present oriented and dealing with challenges which we face every day, and how to get out of negativity as quickly as you can.
Yeah, that's right. In terms of I'm going to be happy someday, often people have this formula. If only I had X, whatever it is, money, marriage, house, then I'd be happy. But then when they get X, then there's Y. If only I had Y, I'm going to be happy. So as Chris is saying, try to enjoy what you have today. and try to be grateful for what you have today and appreciate it. And sometimes I give my clients homework, write out a list of all the things you're grateful about, or write out a list of all the things you appreciate, not only about your life or about others, but also things you appreciate about yourself. One, in relation to others, one principle that most people find helpful is that the more you unconditionally accept others with their faults and don't demand that they do better than they do, the less unhappy you'll tend to be, and then you'll have room to enjoy other people.
Right, right. So a big step is to learn to tolerate a world where other people are not perfect. And then after you've mastered that, the next big step is to tolerate a world where you're not perfect.
Yes, or I'm not sure if that's necessarily the necessary order in all cases.
Right, right.
So in REBT, we talk about unconditional self-acceptance and unconditional other acceptance, and actually you can work on both at the same time. Some of the basics to address in having a good life or an enjoyable, happy life. One is to survive. You're alive, so normally you want to stay alive. So figure out how to do that. And some of the ways to do that is to maintain your health, and you can focus on sleeping well, a healthy diet, and exercise. And if you want to know more about how to sleep well, what a healthy diet is, and the best exercise, there's plenty of research on all those subjects. There are YouTube and podcast talks on all of them, so you could do some research and look at studies for all that. Normally, people are happier when they have a vocation, some kind of gainful employment, and have an income with which they can support themselves, and have an avocation, things that you enjoy doing on your non-work times that you look forward to. And normally, if these things are not only momentary enjoyments, but long-term, in other words, you have long-term goals, for example, to learn a language or to master the works of Shakespeare, then you can break that down to short-term goals, middle-term goals, and long-term goals. And the evidence seems to be that that is leads to more happiness and satisfaction with life than just having immediate pleasures.
That's very good, Michael. Having some background in economics, we realize that we're actually constantly striving towards something. That's whenever we act, we're trying to accomplish some goal. Whether you're thirsty and you go get some water, you satisfy your thirst. If your car is running out of gas, you go to the gas station, fill up gas. So we're constantly creating satisfactions for ourselves. And I think it's good, and this isn't easy for everyone, to, when you look at your day, try to take more control over what satisfactions do you want, in addition to the normal stuff, eating, drinking, that we take for granted. And when you have that kind of purpose driving you, you feel more in control of the satisfactions and the goals you're achieving each day.
Yes, and especially long-term satisfactions. You may get satisfaction from having another smoke or having another drink, but that's very short-term and tends to degrade your life in the long term if you addict yourself. Another major area of enjoyment, satisfaction, and fulfillment for most people is having a social network, friends and acquaintances, and also an intimate relationship, sometimes marriage, family, those kinds of things. So that's something to look into, try to develop in a positive way. And on these podcasts, David and I speak of many ways you can do that and ways you can do those things better. And in our book, 3 Minute Therapy, you can get more insight into that. As far as long-term passions, which we mentioned already, one way to find the long-term passion is to think of what really excites you and work toward that. As Albert Ellis used to humorously say, if you like war, work for war. If you like peace, work for peace. But those are examples of passions that take more than one day. It could be a life's commitment.
Yes, there seem to be a lot of people working for war, and I just hope it makes them happy in some way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It makes me unhappy, but that's an external effect, which we know is
Yeah.
a problem in economics.
That's pretty much the basics of what I wanted to say about enjoyment and satisfaction in life. If you have anyone, either of you, Chris or David, anything else you'd like to add?
I would close by reiterating that the goal of REBT is to fix your problems as quickly as you can. Disturbances, and we disturb ourselves. For example, like regret and guilt, that's usually about the past. You can't be regretful or guilty about the future because it didn't happen yet. But you can fear and have anxiety of the future. So these are all different ways that we can disturb ourselves. And following REBT, the prescriptions, you can get yourself to the present moment and stop disturbing yourself.
Right. And look forward to the future. Some people, I'm one of them, get great pleasure from looking forward to plans I have, things I'm going to do. So that's another way to enjoy life. Also, as far as the emotions Chris mentioned, disturbing yourself is not a good idea, but it is appropriate to have certain helpful, adaptive, negative emotions, such as regret, frustration, disappointment, dislike when you don't get what you want. So REBT is not feel-good therapy. When things go bad, it doesn't make sense to feel good, but there are adaptive emotions and non-adaptive emotions. So, so don't think that if you feel negatively or frustrated, you're thinking irrationally. It could just be a strong preference that's not necessarily met.
Yeah, very good.
Good, excellent.
Okay. Thank you for watching, and please comment below if you have thoughts. Give us a like if you enjoyed it. Suggest subjects. This actually was a subject suggested by one of our viewers. And if you'd like to be on the podcast, volunteer. We're happy to have guests. We have another guest coming up in a few weeks. And donate to Patreon to help support the 3-Minute Therapy podcast, and subscribe to it to stay on the rational side of life.